So hello and welcome to the 22nd episode of the Boar Hat Tavern Podcast, a podcast all about Seven Deadly Sins Grand Cross. I'm your host, Daz, and I'm joined today by the co-hosts of the podcast, Sandyy and Novage. This week on the show, we're going to be talking about Oslo and Hawk. Awesome Party Oslo and Hawk, who just got released a couple days ago on Global. There was also a little bit of JP news, because they got their patch notes and they've got a new update today with Swimsuit Roxy and a few other little tidbits we'll be talking about as well. We're also going to have a top 10 list this week because we're probably not going to talk about Oslo Hawk for a long time because, spoiler alert, he's not the greatest. So Novage put together a 10 most underrated characters in the game list, which I'm excited to hear because I think that one would be a difficult one to curate. And then we're going to finish off the show with a Would You Rather segment, which I realized we hadn't done in a while. So that's our fun little game at the end, Would You Rather. So that being said, we do apologize for last week not having a show again. We've been doing it every other week for, I don't know, I guess a little while now. And it's totally not intentional. It's just totally circumstantial. This one's actually my bad too. I got my second COVID vaccine the day before we were planning on doing this, and it just kind of floored me the next day. I just got some side effects, like some flu-like symptoms and such, and I actually lost my voice for a day, which happened after the first vaccine as well. So it's kind of hard to do these shows, you know, A, if you're not feeling well, but B, if you can't really talk well. So I guess it was a good idea that we delayed it. And Sandy, I'm sorry, but I'm on vacation next week, so we're going to keep going with this every other week thing, at least for the next episode as well.
No, I'm just glad that you didn't lose your soothing radio voice, Daz. So I'm glad you're all better, and nice haircut, by the way.
Thank you. I'm assuming you're not referring to my shave job because I haven't shaved in a while. So my 5 o'clock shadow is like, I don't know, I guess I should call it my Wednesday shadow because I haven't shaved for a few days. But yeah, either way. Novage, what have you been up to in the past 2 weeks?
Yeah, it was quite a bit since we last did our podcast, but between shows, obviously working a lot and getting back out there. I know last time I mentioned that a lot of restrictions have lifted up in the area where I live, but just going to places that I used to go before, and it's so funny. Like it's like some places it's like as if nothing ever changed. You see the same people there that that you were interacting with, and basically catching up. Or you go to new places or places that seem new, but because it's like the staff has changed out and they ask if you've ever been there before, you're like, actually I have, but it's been like a year and a half since I've been here. But it's just glad that I'm able to start kind of getting things back to normal in my life, I guess you could say.
It's so strange. Like I just this week went and hung out in a friend's back porch for the first time in a while because even like the restrictions are pretty tight around here, for, like where I live, for the last little while. So it felt strange just doing normal things again. Like the normal things almost seem a little abnormal, or like you got to get back into the swing of things again to get used to them. But we are here today to talk about Seven Deadly Sins, as well as our lives, apparently. So let's jump right into it, or else we're going to be here forever. Because me, Sandyy, and Novage, we like to chat, and we after a while, you got to like put a cap on it, or else it'll just keep going. Sometimes we've sat here after shows for like well over an hour, just kind of talking. And maybe one of these days we should keep that record button going, and like maybe releases like some bonus content or something. Maybe that'd be cool. But anyways, again, I'm falling down a path that I probably shouldn't go. So let's talk about Awesome Party Oslo Hawk. He's the new unit, like I mentioned before, that got released on Global this week. He's a blue character, and I'm going to go over his kit, and then we're going to chat with him. We're going to chat about him for a little bit. So his passive is an interesting one. It increases all enemies' damage taken from poison, bleed, and shock debuffs by 35%. This excludes death matches, and it also works from a backline or in the sub-slot position. His first skill is called Ping Pong Duo, inflicts damage equal to 140 up to 350% of his attack on one enemy, and makes targets bleed for 2 turns. His second skill is very much like Blue Demon Meliodas' Corrosion card. It inflicts corrosion damage equal to 15 or 20% of remaining HP, but max HP on gold on all enemies for 2 turns. And his ultimate is the exact same as Red Oslo Hawk. It inflicts damage equal to 660 to 990% of attack on one enemy. And if there are 2 or more enemies in the field, it expels the target for 1 turn. Like all you see on the ground is their shadow, and they just can't interact or anything. And if you've got a 6/6 Oslo Hawk, it actually expels the target for 2 turns, which is actually really powerful. So, Sandy, let's start with your thoughts on Oslo and Hawk. What do you think of this new unit that we got in the game today? Is he any good?
Honestly, the red Oslo and Hawk has evaded me. So I did pull on this banner only because, as you know, I like my little representative character to be Hawk. And I wanted Oslo and Hawk just because in the knighthood, I usually sit by myself in my own table. And I wanted a friend. So Oslo actually sits in the middle. But I don't know, he's pretty not awesome to me. Just because of it's like low damage, like that ping pong duo. Great, you do the bleed, but it's not like Hendrickson. It's not like an attack, an AoE. It's like a single target that makes them bleed. That's not. It's just really really low damage, and I can see that they're trying to make this to help the Festival King team, but it's not enough, and who's really going to try to 6/6 him? I might try to, but he's not OP. I don't know if he's here to stay.
I definitely feel like he's on the lower side of good, and by that I mean the higher side of bad. I don't even know what I'm going with there, but either way, he's not a very good unit. It's strange because they seem to periodically release these characters to try and make Festival King teams good again. They did it with the Elaine, I can't remember, the blue Elaine, which was on the recent Fever banner. And they always just seem to kind of fall flat. They don't address the deficiencies of the Festival King team. I feel like one of the big problems with Festival King, they got great ult control, they got debuffs for days, but one of the big problems is a lot of teams are immune to debuffs now with your stance cards and Esteros kicking around. But also you got Goddess Liz shields all over the place, and the damage is just so low you can't crack through a lot of those shields. So you can essentially do nothing against stance teams or Goddess Liz teams, and it makes it a real challenge. So I feel like in order to make Festival King good again, you need to find a way for teams that center around him to somehow be able to deal with those kinds of scenarios, and just using his passive to amplify some extra damage from, King and Hendrickson, who don't hit hard anyways with their debuff cards. It just doesn't seem to be quite there for me. What do you think, Novage?
I think when Sandy said that not so awesome is kind of the probably the best statement. I mean, I actually never really ran a Festival King or even Hendrickson team, but I know a lot of people probably invested into that and probably are looking forward to at least trying this unit out. So, I look forward to see what it could do, but I do agree with you guys. I think the low damage and even his bleed card only being single target, it's really hard to see him as a unit that's going to be useful is the term. And even trying to get him 6/6 is going to be tough just for his ult that you probably won't be able to rush like you do with the red one. But yeah, no, I mean, not so awesome, I guess. It's the best.
You kind of mentioned there too, one of the reasons that Red Hawk, Oslo Hawk, is great is because his kit allows him to rush to get to ult. And if you happen to have him 6/6, expelling for 2 turns is a very strong play. Whereas here, rushing, it's not like you're going to be trying to rush Oslo Hawk's ult, because that's not your win condition. If anything, you're going to be trying to rush Festival King's ult. So the chance of you ulting in a match are slim to none. So you won't even be able to take advantage of that expellation if you happen to even get in most matches.
He's pretty squishy, so it's like his passive, but what's good of a passive or if he's just going to be really, really squishy and die.
And that's just it too, right? I guess he could be just a backline unit, but still, you want to make sure when they pop out, they can do something. Like at least something more than like Death Pierce can do, right? But I don't know if he's even on Death Pierce's level. Like just the amount of damage and everything he puts out is horrible. So he pretty much feels like a useless unit. It seems like we've got a bit of a consensus here. I almost feel like we don't need to spend much more time talking about him. Who knows? Maybe he'll be the next OP goodness after like a banner releases a few weeks from now. But as it sits right now, it seems like a very skippable banner. I think do we all agree on giving this one the big skippable? Yeah, I think so. All right, well, let's move on to the next topic because there's some interesting news that came out of JP today, which is one of the benefits of delaying the podcast a little bit. You get to, piggyback on some JP news and talk about it a little bit. We had a new unit, or we have a new unit coming out on JP, so it means we'll be getting it within 3 or 4 weeks. Swimsuit Roxy, which is a blue unit. It's kind of part of this summer event, I guess, if you want to put it that way. That's that they're going to be launching on JP tomorrow. She's got some interesting stuff in her kit, so she's definitely worth talking about. I don't know if she's going to be necessarily any good. She's going to be on a cheap step-up banner, so one of those 241 gem full rotation banners with a lot of seasonal units again. So you might be able to get a chance to get those, I think, green Eastons on the banner, blue Valenti, a few units that you might need for your box that are a little bit harder to get access to. There's also some awesome costumes that came on this banner too. We'll get to those in a second because there's some pretty cool ones there. But first off, so Blue Roxy, one neat thing about her is her passive, and we were talking about it a lot off camera because it's a unique passive. And the way it works is every time her ult is filled, this is every time her ult is filled. So this isn't just like a one-time thing, presumably. Again, we need to play with her to tell for sure. All the allies will gain a one-time evasion to enemies' attacks and debuffs for 1 turn. So the way that we understand this, and again, she's not out yet, so sometimes Netmarble and translations, stuff can be lost. But it sounds like it's like basically you get 1 free eating of evade food, but it only lasts for 1 turn. So if the enemy attacks you twice, the first one evades, and the second one it will actually land. It's not like you get like a Derriere silver buff, like a red Derriere silver buff, which would make her evade for a whole turn. At least that's what it seems like. So I don't know, interesting. Anything to this character? She's got 2 other cards too. It's Green Escanor single target card, which helps her rush ult, and then she's got a Red Gother AoE attack disable card, exactly the same as Red Gother's. So what do you guys think? Anything to Blue Roxy that we're going to be getting?
Her passive seems cool, but I mean, like, it's interpretation, right? It's like, I don't know, that one-time evasion sounds really nice, but it's like how we interpret it, right? Like you said, the second blow will land. So how effective is that if you know how to fight against, Swimsuit Roxy? And I mean, it's nice, the Green Escanor card, that kind of gives the ult gauge, but then again, the attack disable, you're going to need that merge, or you're going to need like a Gother for a rank up. So I don't know. I feel like it's like, is it just something for your box? And it seems like Netmarble is kind of putting out a lot of blue units. And I remember this because it was in one of our game questions that you said, Daz, that, there's the lowest number of blue units in the game. So I don't know if they're just throwing out characters just to fill those slots, but I don't know if she's meta.
Yeah, it seems like an evasion, like one of the big advantages of evasion food when you're going into PvP is that your enemy doesn't know if you've eaten evasion food. So sometimes you can make sure that they don't bait it out because they don't know if it's there. They might use one of their powerful cards against you and you get the nice evade. But here, presumably, the other player will notice that you've got evasion up all of a sudden. I'm not sure if it's going to be a buff or whatnot, but if you see Roxy with her ult, you should probably know that they've got 1 stack of evasion. So it's not hard to play around evasion if you know it's there. You just throw out a crappy card. A lot of times you're going to be burning a card anyways. So you just bait out the evasion, then you just carry on with your day. I mean, it can be annoying. But at the end of the day, I think a lot of whether or not she's good is going to come down to her stats and just how good, like how strong she is. Realistically, in the meta, you're going to be going up against Bond teams or T1 teams almost exclusively, maybe the odd Amelia team here and there, which is what I still run, by the way. But will she be able to fit in to this meta? Will she counter Bond? Probably not. I don't see how. I mean, like, I guess it'd be nice to avoid one of his swipes, but they're probably going to throw out an Arthur swipe at you instead, right? And not use that Bond swipe. So realistically, will she fit into this meta? I don't think so. Novage, do you think she's going to find use, or do you think she's just kind of a gimmicky character? Maybe she's got uses elsewhere other than PvP.
Yeah, I think you guys said it best, where you're going to know that they have evasion food, or not evasion food, but they're going to have evasion on. So you'll just deal with it. You burn a card. And I mean, like you said, you have, like, if you have a T1, your next two cards could possibly kill whatever target you're going after. I mean, using her instead of fighting against her, I mean, my brain automatically goes to like Zoldris, where you could actually move a card, you lose an orb, but then you use the card, and then she'll get her ult again. So therefore her passive will kick in. Or if you use like one of the Lizzes that give you orbs from their ult or from their skills, that you'll be able to kind of, keep using keep giving her orbs to max out to kick in this passive. But it's a lot of work to figure that out and use her in that manner. Like you said, maybe her use is more in PvE content, in strategy, rather than going against another actual player that knows how to go against this. But yeah, it's be interesting.
Daz, but what other uses? Because I know we were chatting about this before we went live. Is that, why does it always exclude deathmatch? Like, where else is she going to be useful?
I have no idea why Netmarble likes to have so many passives have that little moniker at the end saying, this passive is great, but you can't use it in deathmatch. You're like, why not? Like, who cares? Just let us use these passives in deathmatch. Like, I can understand maybe some of them, but like, really, is it that big of a deal if we evade one attack in deathmatch? Like, just throw us a bone here, Netmarble. But yeah, Sandy, that's what you're talking about. I guess I went on a bit of a rant before we started the show about that. So it just shocks me. One other thing that shocks me too is how awesome Escanor's costume is. Sandy, do you want to tell us about that?
Yeah, it has my stamp of approval, of course. Big Daddy Escanor. He's in his little swim trunks, shirtless, mind you. And his weapon is a sausage, a sausage swimsuit. Like, Netmarble, I commend you on that one, because that is what I'm looking forward to. Not swimsuit Roxy, swimsuit Escanor.
Sadly enough, that's what I'm looking forward to. I think I might have to pick up that weapon just because, like, we don't usually cover like costumes or talk about them on the show, but that go Google it now, look up the JP patch notes if you're at a computer, and check out Escanor's new costume, because the swim trunks are amazing. It could have been a little bit better if it was a Speedo. They're still like kind of like shorty swimsuit, which is great, like the trunks. He's got the like almost like aviator style sunglasses, which I'm a big fan of. And then like the sausage on a stick, like that is the funniest thing ever. Like the pan was good, but the sausage on the stick is going to be so much better. So.
He's like a yoked up dad bod in the summer.
Yes. You don't want to see my dad bod. It looks nothing like Escanor's. But well, I'm sure Novage looks exactly like that with the shirt off. So other than that, on the JP preview side of things, we also had an interesting little drop, which is an artifact system. We're going to try to talk about this, even though the information about it is very sparse. I'm going to try and explain it to the best of my ability, but I know there's going to be some facets of it that are probably somewhat mistaken. Again, translation as well as Netmarble not giving us a ton of information about it, but it's the artifact system. So it looks like what we're going to be doing is we're going to be able to collect these cards throughout different content in the game. And you actually, some rewards are going to be card packs. These card packs inside of them are going to have artifact cards. You're going to be able to collect these just like characters. Even if you get dupes, you can use the dupes to apparently enhance artifact cards. Now, what these artifacts cards do, you can actually apply them to your team. We're not sure which content is going to be available for, if it's like PvE, PvP, maybe everything. But if you apply artifact cards to your team, it will give you specific buffs, stat buffs. And apparently if you use a set of cards or like an artifact set, again, this is kind of where we get into the unclear territory, you can get like unique passives and things too. Now, it looks like Netmarble said in a previous dev note that artifact cards are supposed to help bring lesser used characters into the forefront. So that makes me think that some of these artifact cards are going to be character specific. So maybe you'll be able to get, maybe they'll be using this to address balancing. So maybe you'll have ones that work for your Millums. Well, probably not Millum, but your characters that people don't really use very often, and give them kind of like a big boost. So you're like, oh, hey, like maybe I should be bringing in Griamore or Green Gill Thunder, who I haven't used in a while, because he'll actually be useful if I have his artifact card. So I can see this being an attempt at future balancing. I don't know. Like, there's a lot to be said about what they're going to be doing with this. Do you guys have any kind of idea of where they may be going with this, or like, do you see anything good coming of it, or is this just going to be like something that's like a bit of an afterthought that no one really deals with going forward?
I think, it sounds fun, because it's a completely different system. I'm hoping that it stays, because I couldn't find in any of the notes or information that they did that they're selling packs, because essentially that's what you're doing. You're doing your dailies, or you're doing certain dungeons or whatnot that you get these drops, and they're like little card packs, like, if you remember, like, collecting stuff. And basically it looks like you can't buy it, so at least it levels the playing field evenly for everyone. So free to play friendly in a sense. So I hope it sticks to that, but because it definitely will kind of help with a lot of people that don't spend money on the game, that they have these units, and these card packs will make those units a little bit better.
Yeah, it'll be nice if they do like there was nothing in the notes about being able to purchase them. So hopefully they will stick to that kind of idea. I mean, they might change it when it comes over to global. I know on JP, when they first came with the Belmoth raids, I believe like everything was kind of a little bit, you had like a week to grind those Belmoth cores up. But when it came to global, you didn't have that week anymore. So it made it a little bit less free to play friendly, because the whales could actually go and buy the packs. You couldn't buy a ton of them, but the Belmoth packs, and they could level 9 their characters a lot easier than the free to play players who rely on the grind, which was a little crazy and a little bit of a flurry of everyone trying to get those Belmoths in at once. But fingers crossed. Yeah, I think it'll be a kind of cool system. But Sandy, do you have any ideas on what they might be trying to do here, or do you think it's going to be good?
To me, maybe specifically, maybe it's just me, but I've never dabbled in the reverse stages. And those are actually pretty hard because, like I focus solely on my box for the DPS characters, right? Or characters that I use anywhere in PvP, Guild Wars, PvE content. So a lot of the characters that are required for the reverse stages, they're not strong enough to even complete any of them. So I'm hoping that this artifact system could help where I don't have the resources to level like, Frisia, past level 60 or something, just to get my rewards from that. But I'm excited. I have some characters that I know, like their skills are really cool and I would like to use them in more content, like Deldry, like she's a cool content, she's a cool character and I used to use her. Like if they're going to give her a specific buff, that's pretty awesome. Put her on a Gallon team, maybe something with like a charm or, when like what's Gallon's passive, or like he just gets somebody and they just miss if they attack him. I just think that's a pretty cool team.
Yeah,
but
that's an extremely good point. Like this almost screams, now that we've talked about it a bit, like PvE focus. Because realistically, you're not going to be going in, like, even if there are characters that are lesser used, they get amplified by these artifact cards. Like, it's unlikely you're going to be like putting a lot of resources into like these lesser used characters for a PvP type scenario. And we all know that PvP requires a lot of resources to like get a character up to snuff. But PvE though, like your reverse stages, tower trials, maybe even your training cave or other places too. Like this is where, you know, your character diversity is important, and this can help with taking advantage of that character diversity in a way that you probably couldn't have in the past. So you got me excited. Maybe this is a bit of a portent for new PvE content coming out the road. And also, I guess there's the Ungeared Guild Wars that's kind of expected, and we don't know exactly what format it's going to take, but this might be something which helps that along too, because for Guild Wars you typically need to use a lot of characters, and we don't know exactly the format of how this Ungeared Guild Wars is going to go, but I suspect that these artifact cards may come in handy. But Novage, we've got a top 10 list that I'm itching to hear a little bit more about. You want to bring us into that segment?
Yeah, so it was challenging because, you know, it's everyone's own opinion, and, you know, how each person interprets underrated characters. Is it underrated for just in general, or PvE content, PvP content? So, like, you know, just throwing around everything, I just kind of you know, went through all the characters, and I more so was more like, oh, this person doesn't just they don't get enough credit, you know? Like, I feel like they do have some use, or, you know, some people do use them, but they were never meta type of deal. So let's start with the first one, number 10. So number 10, I wanted to kick off. Let me unhighlight it for everyone so they can see it. Is Lilia, the green Lilia. I believe we got her for free. Why I put her on this list was because the fact that I feel that we want it, or if you look at her, you're like, on paper, she probably has some good use. I was like, you know, she lowers their defense, so you could do more damage. Her passive lowers their attack, or I think their damage that they do. I can't remember. And then she has another skill that lowers their attack as well. So it's almost like she lowers their possibility of doing damage to you, and you increase the damage that you could do to them. So she's definitely a support unit, but I never saw her on the field really. You know, I never see her out there in PvP, but I feel like, you know, she deserves a little bit more credit. Maybe she was just overshadowed by the blue Lilia. But what is your thoughts, Daz?
Well, I mean, I guess the only place I've ever really seen her used is the early seasons of Guild Wars, back when character diversity was a bit of a thing. But yeah, like the first thing I had to do as soon as you took her on, like you show us who your first pick was Google her quickly to see what her kit was. Because I feel like we're going to have to do this for a lot of these characters. But yeah, like she does a lot of, I guess, kind of what Chandler does really a good job at, and it reduces a lot of incoming damage. I mean, maybe she doesn't do it quite as well, but 16% lower attack on all enemies, like that's her passive. Right there, that's a pretty strong passive. 16% is nothing to shake a stick at. And then she also reduces attack really fast, decreases damage, like you said too. Man, I wonder if maybe I should be trying her out a little bit just to take that damage down quite a few pegs. But yeah, interesting first pick.
Sandy, do you have anything to add about Doombringer Lilia?
No, she's actually a pretty good unit if you pair her up. And I remember, if you remember Seven, he was from our guild. I did fight him. I mean, he used her in PvP if you just do the investment. And I think he had like a DPS plus her. And I don't remember if it was like Goddess Liz or someone else, but it's a hard team to get past because you don't see Green Lilia often, right? And you kind of underestimate her and you go for the DPS, but that DPS is tanky and she's over here just, you know, lowering you down. She's a support unit. I think, yeah, you're right. You know, I mean, I see her here and there, she's a pretty good unit. So yeah, top 10. Surprised though. I'm surprised you didn't put Milim in there, Novage. A little disappointed.
There's still 9 more on the list, Sandy. Milim may be number 1.
All right. So number 9, I went with Undead Red Bond. The reason why I put him on here is I feel that, we got him in the beginning, and I'm sure a lot of us probably leveled him and used him. I mean, I remember using him as a sub because he was just like one of the first units you kind of build. And I feel like, he has alt control, he's able to kind of self-heal, and his passive, I think he gets stronger as each turn. I can't remember, but I mean, I feel again, that bond was, helped us start in the game, and I feel like he deserves a little bit more credit. He's underrated, he probably can't, match up against like the one and all the festival units that are roaming around, but he was definitely a good unit. It's like I feel that probably even people starting the game will probably be using him, unless nowadays you get all those free gems and you pull and you might get one of those stronger units and you just leave bond right there in your box, just sitting there.
I had to Google him again, but I did use this spawn a lot as a mainstay in Training Cave for a while. Since I've changed characters and updated a little bit, but I used him against the big, I think it was Skeletor type unit that you have to fight, where controlling his ult is pretty important. And I remember that's why I brought him onto the team. It's just to like drain the guy's ult whenever he had the card. And his stance card too, it makes him fairly tanky. His stance card, the way it works is it's only a 1-turn stance, but there's no damage mitigation at all, but he heals up a percentage of his diminished HP, and like quite a large percentage of his diminished HP at the end of the turn. So if the enemy's going to target you, at least in this case PvE enemy, he'll just heal right back up. And early days of Training Cave, it was pretty important to hang on to as much HP as possible.
I would have put him a little bit higher because, mind you, final boss Escanor, I brought Undead Bond to the team. And with Slater, and I forget who my other team was, but he was a trooper, like you said, that stance card of heal and the ult control, like that was pretty much how I was able to farm final boss Escanor.
So, yep, definitely think that he's a little underrated there. I like how Sandy pointed out that she used this unit, I think for her video that she put into the contest and won as the most unique team, I believe it was, which is cool, So I he probably could have been a little bit higher, but I feel that number 9 was a good spot for him. All right, moving on to number 8. Number 8 might be a little surprised because I think most people forget about this unit. So Halloween Gilia, she's a green unit. I placed her on here because I feel that, she is underrated. No one uses her, but her passive, she gets stronger as she moves. She gets really tanky. I think she decreases her damage that she receives by each turn up to like 5 times. I forget what the percentage, but if she's on the last one on the field, she's definitely going to be, she's almost like she was a free unit. So she's almost like Mikasa. As you leave her on the field, she's going to get stronger. So I put her on here because I think she's underrated. I think, no one really put her on any team. And I feel that she is definitely, useful. I mean, definitely, like we talked about Training Cave, I mentioned it earlier. I mean, using these type of units you get for free. I think so far, these 3 units, all of them we got for free. So they're definitely accessible to the new players. Well, players that's been playing for a while, actually. What do you think, Daz?
This is the first unit that you've put on the list that I've never used. I remember getting her and just being like, well, I guess that's that. And I never even gave too much thought about putting her in any certain scenario. Looking at her now, and again, I had to Google her abilities and such. She's got some interesting cards too. Like you said, the passive decreases damage taken by 4% per hero skill. So you can get 40% damage reduction if she's on the field for a while, that's pretty impressive. And then she's also got an AoE defense break. Can't complain about something like that. Not to mention a charge card. I could see her being used. I personally don't see where I'd take her into play, but hey, I'm glad you're making this list, not me.
Sandy, any thoughts on Halloween Gilia?
I don't think I even have her, but since we were talking about like costumes, I feel like she always gets like the cutest costumes, but like nobody really uses her. So yeah, I don't have her in my box, so I'm kind of disappointed, but I can see how she's used. I like how they put her as like Catwoman. I also like her because she like never opens her eyes. So, I mean, that's not like anything character related at all. But I can see how, I mean, her cards, she has AoE and an AoE alt. So,
Wait a
pretty.
minute. How do you not have her in your box? She was a free unit. Were you just not playing that week?
I don't think I was playing. I don't think I have her. I don't know.
You forgot hit that claim reward button, I guess. I don't know.
Yeah, I didn't even finish the
Yeah,
bingo event. We just went by. I don't think I got her. I don't
You
know.
actually, now that I think about it, I think she was free like multiple different ways because you were able to 6/6 her for free. So
What?
I also like that because the fact started using her as a sub for Jericho back when we were doing Kalak, who's coming back this coming week. But it's doing, because I remember like, oh man, you have to level up the red Gilia, and it's like, yo, you have to 6/6 her because she's SSR. It's like, oh my God, like taking time to do that. So I had to use the SR version as a sub for Jericho to just get that extra damage from the ult. So I was really happy that, we got this free unit and, she was SSR and got her 6/6. So it was a sub for Jericho. I'm sure you probably got one of those free.
Are you sure?
tokens.
Because I barely got like Halloween Meliodas like this week. I don't know. Maybe I missed that banner or that event.
Her costumes, though, I think you had to get through something, though, like the ears and stuff. So you might have missed the costume.
Darn.
Time to recheck that box. Well, she's so underrated, Sandy doesn't even remember if she's got her. So, all right, what's next on the list?
All right. Moving on to lucky number 7. New Legend Liz. This is the red Liz. If you guys might remember her, she's been a couple of banners now. I put her on the list because I remember of all the Liz, I never used her. I never leveled her. And what happened was in the first Guild Wars, setting up the teams is like, on my attack team, like I don't have any healers. Like how can I put this in the mix with the teams that I'm taking? And then I came across the red Liz and I was like, okay, she has an attack card that's AoE that heals, like the lowest member of your team, that has the lowest HP on your team. And then she has like a buff card that increases your defense related stats and then eventually debuff immunity depending on what rank. And I like her alt heals everyone. So I'm like, okay. So I took her into the attack team for my Guild Wars and I was like, all right, she definitely underrated. She was very useful, got me out of a lot of pinches. I mean, because what Guild Wars has become now using so many different types of teams, she's not my current team, but I felt like she's still a great unit. She's probably not everyone's first unit that they would level right away, but I think she's definitely underrated. What are your thoughts on New Legend Liz?
Well, I know you guys both used her a bit too. I know Sandy did for a while. I feel like Sandy was like the holdout, where I remember looking at your attack roster and be like, you sure you still want to keep her on there? And you're like, yep, my girl. So I think I'm going to defer to Sandy's discussion on this one because I know she's had a bit more use with her than me.
Yeah, I mean, before the Lost Vein like cheese team, she was on my Lost Vein team, and she would basically just be my healer, instead of bringing in like King. I mean, one of her cards, which is called like Blessing Light, it removes debuff on a rank 1. But then on a rank 2 and a rank 3, you actually have like defense related stats. So it makes you that much tankier just to survive until Lost Vein can get his ult. And like Novage said, I mean, her other card, Royal Dignity, is also an AoE and it heals you for the percentage. But then on top of that, as Liz always does, she has to be that healer. Her passive, called Shared Warmth, increases allies' recovery rate by 10% every time the hero heals an ally's HP. So she's just really there as a support unit, and she comes in clutch. Like she really did for my Lost Vein team, until we had to like do the cheese strat and all of that. But she has that Liz ult where when you ult with her, she heals you and then she gives you 2 orbs. But she's also, I believe, isn't she the one with the cosmetic to trigger like one of the
Spawning a demon.
demons?
Yeah,
Spawning
red,
a demon.
to
Yeah.
spawn red demons. Yeah.
Mm-hmm. So she's useful. I like her.
I hope in the Ragnarok story, I'd love to see some like a demon Liz or something. Like how cool would it be if you had like an evil version of Liz that was like a bit of like an attacky type character? Because really, like you said, every Liz in this game has some sort of healy thing, unless she's paired with Hawk. But by herself, they always got heals. I guess maybe not Danfor Liz, but all the main Liz's do.
She's there to either heal you or die and give you something.
Die, heal you, and give you all ult.
Yeah.
Okay,
Novage, what's next on the list?
All right. So moving on to number 6. So Deldry, Red Deldry is, I know Sandy mentioned her earlier. I put her on here because I feel like there is definitely a lot of potential. She's underrated because she's probably more of an annoyance if you see her in battle in PvP. But it's funny if she charms the person that's like your bread and butter. If she charms the one, or if she charms like Bon, or she charms someone from your Pierce team, and they can't do damage to her. So if it's an area attack, it doesn't damage anyone on the team. So it's just I put it on here because I feel like she's underrated. She probably could be used in a little bit more strategies, more like luck strategies, I feel. But definitely a unit that should be mentioned on this list.
Going in against a Bond team, it's RNG anyways, right? You might as well toss your Deldry on there and just hope you happen to get that 1 in 3 chance of charming Bond. Because I think it'd be funny, like, if you charm Bond or the one, like, that's a serious impact on the outcome of the match too. If they can't, I mean, I guess maybe not on T1 so much because he can just attack other people, but Bond, because he's all AoE, all of his attacks are just going to miss. That'd be pretty phenomenal.
Yeah, I think she also has the HP related stats thing where she could choose who on your team you're going to make them attack. So if it's the unit that, I mean, you could play it both ways. You could have them target someone else, or the charm unit, if you know that they're going to try to attack you, just charm yourself strategy. So it's interesting unit that I definitely wanted to put on this list.
I like
Sandy,
her.
I'm sure she has, Sandy probably has a lot of input.
I think she is underrated. I think she was one of the other teams that was an alt rush team. When I was like new to PvP, I used to use her and of course the Blue Liz. So, Blue Liz is there to die. Deldry's there to just kind of charm. And then I believe that I used like Merlin. So I just kind of alt rushed, but it really worked out. I'm very, very curious because again, she's like a red unit. What if you put her on a Bond team? Like she's also a human, like that'd be pretty cool. Or do you pair her with like, Blue Galland because, she's going to charm someone, he's going to taunt someone. So you're basically disabling 2 characters on the field, right? And then maybe you put in somebody with a stance skill. I don't know. Maybe we should test it out. What do you say, Daz?
I think it'd definitely be fun. I don't know how effective any of these strats would be, but it would be fun. And it's kind of funny because this week there's been a lot of heat given to Netmarble for how bland, I guess, is probably the nicest word you can use for it, PvP has gotten, with everyone playing the same 2 teams, basically, like mostly Bond and the odd like T1 Glue Eater team. It'd be nice to see some diversity and see characters like this come to the forefront. Maybe there'll be some Deldry artifact cards we can bring into PvP if they let us do that, which buff her up and make her a viable unit in that kind of situation.
Yeah, I invested in her, so she's level 80. I'm ready when you are, Daz.
I may never be ready. She's not invested at all in my box. Who's next, Novage?
All right, moving on to number 5. Number 5, Scrap's Disposal Hawk. He's the green one. The reason why I put him at 5 and underrated is right now he's actually buffed at 50%. And I definitely think that you people that got him and they don't spend money on the game or they don't play every day, he's a good unit. I mean, for PvE content, if you're struggling for missions, if you're struggling doing any of the PvE content, this unit's it's pretty good, especially when he's buffed. It seems like he gets buffed every festival that we get. It's almost always a festival nowadays. But I think he's buffed until the 20th, I think. But when he's not buffed 50%, he's buffed I believe only 15%. And again, he's another free unit, so it's good that he was given out to a lot of the other players. What is your thoughts on Scrap Disposable Hawk?
It's nice having PvE characters that do so well, like him. Green Arthur is another one as well that can really help out for people struggling with PvE. And yeah, I guess you can't use him all the time to his full potential anyways, but it's nice that, if you're struggling with a level, you're like, oh great, it's festival time, we can toss Green Hawk in there and just clear it with without a problem. So I think it's good to give those kinds of units to help people progress.
Any input, Sandy, about little old Hawk?
Yes, I love him. He's my character until I got Oslo and Hawk. But yeah, I mean, his ultimate is pretty there if any of you were lucky enough to get him 6/6, right? It's like on one enemy, but it decreases the HP related stats for 40% for 2 turns. I don't know. Somebody bring him to PvP to fight Bon. Bon's gonna call him master. Like, I don't know. Like, I feel like make it fun this week. I really like Hawk.
So again, Sandy, I'm pretty sure we got him 6/6 for free again.
Oh my God.
So, yeah. And he's not only once, but I'm pretty sure we've gotten copies of him for free since he came out. So if you've been playing for any stretch of time, you would have been lucky enough to get him 6/6. So, yes.
Where have I been?
I don't know. Not paying attention to these free units, apparently.
These are definitely underrated because I have no idea.
Oh, man. It's pretty funny.
Some people actually used his dupes for upgrading people. That's why, or trading them into the coin shop. So I think that's what, in the beginning, a lot of people did that, not realizing, down the road. I mean, if you've been playing the game for a while, you may not need Green Hawk, but I mean, people that's been playing just around the time they came out for free could be useful to them.
I did. You're right. I did do that for Red Gallon, and you know what, Daz? That's the worst mistake I've made. I've seen Red Gallon. I think I got him like 10 out of 6, and I was like, he's useless. I've got Blue Gallon 6/6, and now he's there.
Go figure. Okay, who's next on the list, Novage?
All right, number 4. I always remember what I put for number 4. It's going to be a surprise to me as well. Oh, number 4, I put the Serpent Sin of Envy Giant Blue Deanne. I put her on here because she's a great unit. I mean, each turn, she keeps getting stronger and stronger. And, just like we mentioned with Gilia, she's the last one on the field. She's definitely going to be at her top notch with all her passive kicked in fully. I mean, she was part of a meta in the very early stages of PvP, but obviously got outshined by new and better units. But I mean, she's still a great unit. I mean, people were using her recently on the new guild boss, so she may not get the top score as like the unknown team, but I still think this Deanne is underrated in the sense that she was free, and she does pretty decent damage with her AoE and her ult. What is your thoughts, Dad? What do you think about
her ult? Is really strong. She's always been, like, since early in the game, one of the characters that was like hoping to eventually get to 6/6. She's a coin shop unit, so you can do it. It takes a lot of coins, and there's always other priorities like your go-throughs and your kings. So I never got her there. I think I've got her like maybe 3/6 now. But yeah, like I was always jealous because I really wanted to run her in PvP. I mean, and again, like now it's like that ship is probably sailed. But oh man, those ults could hit so hard if you gave her a few turns to amp up her passive. Did we lose you, Sandy? He like fell off the face of the earth for a second there.
Yeah. Any thoughts on Giant Blue Neon, Sandy?
She's annoying. For one, like if you don't kill her right away, right? She increases her attack. But two, I just, I get it that they're giants, but whenever I use like giants, it just messes up like the whole screen of how like I'm used to looking at the playing field. So maybe that's just a peeve more than anything. Nothing against Deanne, but yeah. I think she's a pretty good unit. If you leave her alone for too long, yeah, she that attack disable, pretty useful. I do like her.
Maybe that's a hidden buff. You give the other team vertigo from the strange camera angles and like blocking health bars and stuff too. It's really annoying. They just need they just need to shrink down the giants a little bit. They don't have to be that big. Okay, Novage, we got 3 more on the list. Top 3. I'm excited.
Top 3. So the third one, I'm sure when you guys see it. So I put Nanashi as number 3. So I put him on here because I feel that he has such an interesting, unique, and I know Sandy's mentioned him multiple times, and I don't see a lot of him out there in the game. I think that in PvP, he definitely surprises people. They don't know how to play against him. I think he's underrated. I recently got him 6-6 from the banner that just passed by that he was on. So I was definitely very happy to get some dupes of him to be able to upgrade his ult. What is your thoughts on Nanashi, Daz?
Why do you always go to me first? Sandy really likes Nanashi too. Sandy,
I used him. Come on.
Yeah, let's go to Sandy on this one.
I love the man. Honestly, I went full on, just upgraded everything. He's 6'6". I've maxed out all his cosmetics. He's level 90. I use him on the back line and use him in Guild Wars, but where he's most useful for me is like PvP, because either people don't know how to fight against him or you have no choice, because on the first turn, like you're going to have to attack my characters. So irregardless, there's an ult control there. All the characters basically start out with like two cards. So it really works out because people don't understand how those buffs work. And I'm using right now, I'm using a new team, but I use T1, of course. It's not a glue eater team. But then I'm using, what's his face? The 3-headed
Tarmiel.
Angel. Tarmiel and Blue Dairy, and of course Blue Nanashi in the back. So honestly, kind of like an all good team, and it's been working out for me because you honestly don't know that Nanashi's in the back, and it's interesting to see the other team continue to try to get their ult, and they have no idea what's happening. But even when Nanashi does pop out, he's not like a Death Pierce, he has an AoE card, and on his his single target card on a rank 2 is also another ult gauge. So this guy's just like, nobody's getting their ult today.
Between Tarmiel, him, and Derriere, you're hard pressed, I'm sure, to get ult against that comp there, Sandy.
Yeah, I love him. I think he's underplayed, and I'm glad that I got him. Although still trying for that 6'6" Blue Dairy, because I aimed for him.
Aye, 2 left on the list. I'm excited to see who number 1 is. I have no clue who it's going to be. If it's Millum, though.
All right, number 2. I put this unit because I feel she's actually my favorite unit in the game right now. I've been using her in PvP for like ages. So Sweet Temptation Dairy, the blue one, I just enjoy using her because of the fact that she removes buffs and she's immune to stun when she's in her taunt phase. And I've already maxed out her cosmetics from Red Dairy, so she's definitely, her CC helps a lot in the PvP content. So I had to put her on this list. She's at number 2, but not number 1. Sandy, what's your comments on Blue Dairy?
Made a mistake. I call her the queen for a reason. I'm just kidding. Honestly, yeah, she belongs in top 2, definitely. I don't know if she's underrated because a lot of people, I guess end game users use her a lot more than free to play or newer players, because you haven't really gotten a chance to kind of play around with all the characters. But honestly, she really is. Like when that banner came out, I didn't think that she was that, useful. I was like, cool, Valentine, new dairy. I've already invested so much on my red dairy. Why would I go for the blue dairy? But come to find out, that taunt and just how beefy and tanky she is. And then of course her buff removal, like who knew that would come in clutch. Like honestly, like going against your glue eaters, going against your goddess Liz, going against Bon, to be honest, like, hey, strip your HP buff. Like she is definitely useful, not only in PvP, but in PvE content. And she belongs in top 2. Definitely. I agree with you there.
I'm making her a fresh new HP Def Yor set, like as we speak. But those are the purple stones I'm saving up for, is to give them to my blue dairy area. I've been using my attack defense set on her again, because everyone uses her for guild boss, or at least the red dairy area. So you've got that set kicking around, but she really shines in HP def set. So I'm looking forward to getting that set built up for dairy.
Not her crit or her triple defense, like many sets.
So many sets for dairy areas, so many guild bosses. I'm really happy that the last guild boss had like no dairy. I was just waiting for someone to come up with a dairy area strat for Belgius or whatever his name was. So I'm glad that hopefully that ship has sailed and we're never going to have another dairy area guild boss outside of the ones we already have. I don't know who you're going to have a number 1, Novage. I'm very, very, very curious, because I thought it was going to be Dairy Airy, and then he slid her number 2. So either I'm missing one person that's just slipping my mind, or you're going to be throwing Millum at me and just making me all sorts of rage inside.
All right. So the number 1 most underrated character that I feel in the game is, here we go. Ready? It's going to be Boar Hat Tavern Liz, the red one.
Oh, okay.
Again, I put her at number 1 because I feel that her passive is so strong. It's an automatic heal if they get attacked. You could throw her on, not on hell mode, but any of the deathmatch people. If the people in mid game that are not end game yet, they could just throw her on the sub slots, and you could survive a little bit longer in that PvE content. When I first started the game and started playing PvP, I threw her in my sub slot and always felt that, she's a good unit because she's going to heal you when you get attacked. But as the game as I progressed through the game and as new units coming out, may not survive at the end of the round to be able to get healed. But I still feel she's helpful even in other content that you run into. I think some people still use her in like final boss content just to make sure you top off HP before the round's over. So definitely the most underrated unit, I feel like. I don't invest any cosmetics into her, but just her passive alone has been so helpful throughout, and still helpful to this day.
I just SA5'd her just last week too. She's used everywhere. Like you don't even realize, like you said, like a lot of the PvE content, you toss in the sub slot so that you heal up to max HP as much as possible, because that's so important for scoring. And she's used in endgame content like Guild Wars. A lot of people use her in Guild Wars. Like not much on PvP, but outside of that, yeah, her passive is absolutely amazing. If you need a healer where you can get heals without having to use cards, that's always a pretty powerful thing. If you can get a solid effect or a solid thing happen without having to use cards to get that thing, that makes it a much more powerful thing.
I love it. Sorry. Honestly, I think she's just pretty funny. Like she's going over there. She's like waitress tavern Liz, and she's like breaking plates on you. I feel like it's like a Greek wedding, but yeah, if you're not mindful of what she does, that rank 2 is an attack disable. So she's not all useless. So she's a healer, and maybe she can take you out for one turn.
Maybe.
I don't know if she's rank 1 though. I got to talk trash a little bit because you guys put me in the hot seat when I did my top 10. So
yeah, this is probably the hardest top 10 list to curate of any of the ones we've done so far, because underrated is such a relative term. You can have characters that are really good that are underrated. I mean, I guess you do have a couple of those like Derriere, Nanashi, and Liz, but you can also have characters that are really bad, but they're probably better than most people think, right? So I honestly have no idea. And I think you could ask 10 different people and get 10 different characters on everybody's list, because this one is very subjective. And it's not just like, oh, top 10 healers, right? Like most people probably know what the top 3 would be on that list, for instance. So it makes it a lot more difficult. And you're a brave man to tackle this one, Novage, and put it out there in the world. So that being said, featured comment time, Sandy?
Featured comment time. So every week, anywhere you guys leave the comments for us, wherever you find us on YouTube, Stitcher, Apple Podcasts, Google Podcasts, Discord, we will choose one comment. And honestly, this comment is pretty ironic or funny. And this comment actually comes from YouTube. The user, not Maggie. If not Maggie, who are you? But user not Maggie said, sad there is no new episode this week. I normally listen to each episode Friday night while I am at work. I'm so sorry, not Maggie, but next week Dad is on vacation. So we're now a weekly scavenger hunt kind of podcast. We like to surprise you guys.
I feel so bad. It makes me feel guilty for missing a week, especially when you hear about people regularly listening to the blather that comes out of our mouths, and expecting it. Like you don't necessarily, I mean, we're not like a huge show or anything. We've got like a bit of a following, but you don't expect people to necessarily miss you if you're gone for a week. So it is nice and heartwarming to see that people are out there being like, hey, where'd you go? And well, anyways, that's where we went, and we apologize anytime we have to miss a week, but we will be getting back to that regularly weekly show soon. Not next week, but soon. Oh, I guess that means it's game time. So it's Would You Rather? And yeah, this is a quick one, so it won't take too long. I guess we're getting a little bit longer on the show time here. But anyways, Would You Rather, the way it works is I ask Sandy and Novage a question. Would you rather A or B? And they need to answer. And hopefully the questions I asked are interesting enough that this will be good content. I've got 5 questions. We'll see if we get through them all. Starting with the first one, I'll go to Sandy first. Would you rather be forced to use Blue Oslo Hawk or Milim in every team comp for the rest of your life?
Oh my goodness. Say no more, Milim.
Oh.
I am standing my ground. I want her to be useful. Hey, those artifact things, what if Milim becomes OP? Okay?
I think
Mark my words.
You're going to hold out a while there because she's a collab character. I don't think you can give her UR gear. So it's going to be an uphill battle because she's probably not going to get an artifact card. But, keep holding out hope, Sandy. One day. I know.
Maybe at least she has some damage cards compared to awesome, not so awesome Oslo Hawk.
Maybe the slime collab will come back and we'll get a red Milim that's OP. How about you, Novage?
I actually thought I knew which one I would pick, but I think Daz kind of clarified something for me. I think Milim doesn't have a UR set. He's right. None of the slime collab units have UR capabilities. So being stuck for the rest of my life using Milim, I don't think I would prefer. I think I'd choose the not so awesome Oslo and Hawk.
No challenge?
unit. Yeah, I'm gonna go with the
Poor
the
Gnome.
opposite of Sandy.
All right, next one we'll start with Novage. Would you rather be a 7 deadly sin or a 10 commandment?
Oh wow, that's a good question.
Every once in a while, I come
Um,
up with some good ones. It's tough. I don't know. Like, do you go with like, are you picking between good and evil here? Or are you picking between like, what crew you want to hang with, and like the fact that you get a commandment would be pretty awesome as well. I don't know what the correct response would be here, but Novage, you got to give us one, whether it's correct or
Yeah,
not.
I'm gonna go on a little wild side. I'm gonna go with the commandment.
Oh,
I think
bad
having a
boy.
commandment would be pretty cool.
How about you, Sandy?
Oh, definitely. I would go with the commandment. I would be like the commandment of petty, but amplified, like times 2.
Nice.
Does not exclude deathmatch.
Okay, back to Sandy. Would you rather be in charge of game design at Netmarble or be Netmarble's artistic director?
Ooh, that's
So-
an interesting one.
Yeah, so game design is more like choosing how the game progresses versus the artistic director who chooses the art.
I think I like game design because I feel like it's like telling a storyline, right? And yes, they have the anime and everything, but I feel like some of the segments that they're going off to, I think could be a little bit more, like you said, right? Like this week is a little bit bland. How do you design the game so that it wouldn't be so bland on what we call quote unquote maybe an off week before a release of Ragnarok? Artistically, I mean, I think they've done a pretty good job compared to the anime. That's why I wouldn't go the artistic route.
You
I
let
can't
them keep their job.
Yeah, you know what? You're okay. Maybe Cameron L. Lott, whatever. I'd like his job. But but I think game design is very, very crucial to the lifespan of a game. You know,
Definitely.
like people don't stick around for the, I would say, like the graphics and everything like that. That's a huge plus. That's a huge bonus. But I think it's what draws players in. What does it have to offer? And I would stop the game fatigue. I would be very interested in seeing like what is the end goal, like for end game players. What is the goal for PvE players? Like what are your quarterly? I guess is me coming from business, is like your quarterly, your this. Not only are you doing revenue, maybe you should do it in terms of like storyline. Where do you want to be? Sorry, that was a little. Netmarble,
No.
hear me.
This turned from a would you rather to like a job application interview.
Yeah.
So sorry.
No, that's fine. Apparently, that means I asked a good question, because usually it's like a yes or no response. But Sandy's like, no, you better hire me because this is because of A, B, C, D. Like, this is what I do. So good to know. How about you, Novage? Are you going to be applying for Sandy's job here? A little competition?
I think what they've done with art so far. So in a sense, the way I took the question is that basically I'd be replacing one of those people at Netmarble. I would leave the art person alone. I think they've done such a great job with the game. Be fun to do the game element side of it, and kind of obviously there's probably a lot more details like Sandy explained, like net earnings and quota and all that stuff that could be a challenge. But leave the art person alone. I think we both agree on that. So I would do the game side of it.
Next one's a little bit more vanilla. Would you rather enhance and awaken gear for 8 hours straight? So a lot of enhancing, awakening gear. Or would you rather re-roll gear substats for 8 hours straight? Both really annoying things, which with the current gear gacha, I've been doing a lot of both. So Novage, which one would you rather be stuck doing for 8 hours?
6 months ago or whatever point when they added that patch they made the changes of re-rolling and upgrading gear, it was such a pain to do it that way. I feel if I had to pick which of the two now, I feel that re-rolling is a lot easier. Less clicks, you could just click and do 5 at a time, which is amazing. So I'd rather re-roll stats for 8 hours.
How about you, Sandy? I guess, yeah, you can put the phone down while you're re-rolling stats.
I second that motion. I will re-roll any day.
It's just me wanting to vent about having to enhance and awaken gear, because I pretty much did it for 8 hours yesterday. It was the most painful process I've ever been through. Okay, final one. Would you rather Netmarble turn you into a final boss or an in-game character? Sandy, let's start with you.
Straight away, fight me. Make me a final boss.
I like it because I assumed everyone was going to say the in-game character, but you're like, I want him to fight me.
I do. I want to make
Final boss Sandy.
Yes, I want to be like final boss Escanor, where everyone has trouble. I think that's super awesome.
Well, I think as game director, you can make that happen.
That's true. That's true. Hire me. I will make. I mean, we're all doing this fan art thing. Like, come on, fan final boss. Like, make Sandy a final boss.
That'd be awesome. How about you, Novage?
I hate that it's a little boring picking the same thing as Sandy, but the reason why I would be final boss as well is because I feel that if I was an in-game character, that my unit probably won't work in deathmatch, and
you wouldn't be Mike Wheeler. You wouldn't be Mike Wheeler.
No one's gonna get you 6-6. They're gonna skip on your banner.
I know. Even though I would be a free unit, right? And Sandy's gonna miss out. Forget that. Not click that box and accept the free unit.
How dare you? But Daz, before you end, can we ask, who would you be? That's a pretty pretty big question.
In-game character, 100%. Final boss is only here for 2 weeks at a time, but in-game characters, they're gonna sit in your box and stare back at you forever. And just the thought of me being in everyone's box, there's probably some weird jokes you can make about that, but just like staring back at you, and I'd have an amazing profile picture or of some sort. And I think it'd be so much fun to be able to I'd play me for sure. I don't know, maybe this is a little egocentric, but I'd play me in PvP and stuff and have fun with it and be like, yeah, that's right, I'm slapping you with myself. I just think it'd be a lot of fun to be able to actually play yourself in game, and that the prospect of that it sounds pretty cool to me. So I mean, it'd be neat, obviously, for a lot of the reasons I just kind of outlined.
Sweet.
All right, but that very egocentric note, let's finish the show. So again, thanks everybody for sticking around for an hour and 10, 15 minutes, whatever this is, for joining us today at the Boar Hat Tavern. It's a 7 Deadly Sins Grand Cross podcast. We do stream this show live on Twitch whenever we happen to do it. We haven't had a regular time recently. We're trying to sort that out. It's a bit difficult with work schedules and such, but we're going to come up with hopefully a new regularly scheduled time soon. Sandy, I don't know if I should still keep this in the outro anymore. So maybe we should take this out going forward, but where can people find you if they want to find week or months old YouTube videos?
Month old. Well, apparently we need a grind guild boss so we can participate in Guild Wars. Y'all can find me on youtube.com/Sandy with a double Y 7DS, because I have to be grinding those next week.
Well, hopefully we'll get a good guide to go with them. New level, no one's done level 90 SA5 stuff for this boss yet too. So back to Kalak all over again with some stronger characters. Should be interesting. So if you'd like to get in touch with us, you can email us anytime at podcast@boarhattavern.com. You can also follow us on Instagram. We're also on Twitter at Boar Hat Tavern. All three of us, we're members of the Global Guild Denied, part of the Scoundrels Alliance. If you'd like to join our ranks, actually one of our sister guilds is actually looking for a final member to join us for the upcoming Guild Wars next week. You can reach out to us. Maybe this is the first test. If you can figure out how to get into our Discord, that's the first test of coming to join us. I'm sure you can find us if you look around. Links are in descriptions with some of our older videos, as well as we're in a lot of the public Discord channels. So, but if you have problems with that, you can always send us an email, send us some DM on Twitter, whatever. We'll help you get in there. You can also subscribe to our podcast on Apple Podcast, Google Podcast, Stitcher, or wherever you happen to find your podcasts online. You can also find our shows on our website at boarhattavern.com, which we still haven't touched. And at this point, I feel like we're probably never going to. We'd also like to thank Madeline Marois for crafting our killer logo, Streetwise Rhapsody from YouTube for composing our awesome cover song of the Grand Cross theme song that we use for our intro, and Andre Bobe from ArtStation for letting us use outstanding 3D renders of the Boar Hat for our pre-live and post-video splash screens. You can find all their work in the description wherever you're listening or watching this. But everybody, thanks for listening. Have a great week.
Bye.